My fingers fumbled with the wrench. The rain fell harder now, stinging my face. The first valve was in position. I moved on to the next one, my heart racing. Halfway through, headlights shine through the darkness. Ms. Reynolds' SUV. Asterisk. I slid to the ground, holding my breath. The automobile slowed, its tires crunching on damp asphalt. For a horrifying second, the beams swept over my hiding place. Then, miraculously, it rolled on. By 2 a.m., all 6 valves had been changed. Marcus greeted me back at my garage, drenched but smiling. Phase 1 complete. Now we wait. Inside, I removed my soaked clothes and checked the weather radar. The storm's core was nearly overhead. Eleanor called, her voice filled with static. The county just issued a flash flood warning. Perfect timing. I popped open a drink and stared out the window. The rain fell in sheets now, and the streets were already pooling. Let's see how the HOA enjoys natural water distribution. Asterisk. By sunrise, Pinecrest Village resembled a partially buried ship. My street had become a shallow river, with water lapping at the curbs. Then my phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. On Channel 5's morning program, a flustered reporter stood in front of the HOA office. Or, more accurately, what used to be the HOA office. The building sat in a foot of water, its flower gardens turned to muck. Inside, through the glass doors, I noticed papers floating like lily pads. The reporter exclaimed over the wind, "Unprecedented flooding here at Pinecrest Village's community center, where officials say an overwhelmed drainage system may be to blame." I almost choked on my coffee. Asterisk overwhelmed drainage system. Asterisk perfect. The main event started at 8:17 a.m. Ms. Reynolds' Lexus sped through the floodwaters before coming to a halt when the wake touched her door handles. She emerged in stiletto boots, already ankle-deep. Her shriek reached all the way to my porch. "What is this?" A maintenance guy sloshed towards her, arms raised helplessly. "The pumps failed, ma'am. Water's coming in from every direction." I sipped my coffee and savored the moment. By lunchtime, the emails began flying. Urgent, emergency HOA meeting, community center, moved to Pinecrest Elementary due to floods. Marcus texted, "Wear something nice. We're going to a funeral." The school gym was packed, half of the community had come out, some really concerned, some, like Eleanor, smiling in the front row, clearly there for the show. Ms. Reynolds took the podium, her normally flawless hair frizzing in the humidity. "This meeting will address the vandalism that caused today's flooding." Murmurs echoed throughout the throng. She held up a small bag containing one of Eleanor's modified valves. "We have proof. Someone tampered with our irrigation system." A man in the rear exclaimed, "You mean the illegal system is stealing our rainwater?" The room erupted. Ms. Reynolds thumped her gavel. "This is criminal damage. We've already contacted." "Actually," Eleanor said, standing quietly, "I think everyone should see this first." She unrolled a giant blueprint over the stage, showing the original community drainage plans overlaid with the HOA's unapproved changes. A quiet descended. Marcus stood. "Seems like the only criminal thing here is the HOA stealing water from 6 homes to fill a pond nobody wanted." Ms. Reynolds' face turned purple. "Those modifications were approved." "By who?" I exclaimed. "The same board members whose backyards overlook that garden." The room exploded. Somebody tossed a water bottle. Then, silence. A woman wearing a smart pantsuit walked down the center aisle. Diana Fuller, Assistant District Attorney. "My office has some questions about these modifications." Ms. Reynolds' gavel clattered on the floor. That nightfall, news vans arrived. Diane, our neighbor and Channel 5 producer, ensured that the story led the show. HOA accused of illegal water diversion as flooding exposes alleged corruption. Marcus, Eleanor, and I stared from my porch as the remnants of the storm glittered under lamps. Phase 2 starts tomorrow, Eleanor stated. The county's seizing HOA financial records. I raised my beer. To natural consequences. Marcus grinned. And to Ms. Reynolds' very damp office. In the distance, a siren sounded. The morning following the flood, I awoke to the sound of hammers. Outside, a construction team wearing HOA-branded windbreakers was already pulling up the waterlogged remnants of the community garden's beautiful pond. Ms. Reynolds stood nearby, arms crossed and yelling orders into her phone. My phone vibrated with a text from Marcus. Check your email. They're not going down without a fight. The subject line made my stomach plummet. Formal notice of fines and legal action, case number 4821. The email was the epitome of bureaucratic malice. The HOA struck me with $1, 200 fine for destruction of association property, the valves. 2, a lien threat if not paid within 10 days. 3, a demand to restore all modifications, i.e., let them continue stealing my water. Attached was a fuzzy photo of me from someone's doorbell camera, kneeling near the junction box during the storm. They had proof. Marcus called before I could panic. They sent one to all 6 of us. Classic intimidation. But they were stealing our water. Doesn't matter. They'll bleed us dry in legal fees before admitting fault. I crushed the note in my fist. Then, knocking. A process server stood on my porch, clutching a larger envelope than my thumb. Mr. Jackson? You've been served. The record stated that the Pinecrest HOA board was suing me, Marcus, Eleanor, and 3 other homeowners. The charges are trespassing ***, association maintained drainage infrastructure. Vandalism ***, valves. Conspiracy ***, with dramatic flourish. Worst of all, a temporary restraining order prevents us from interfering with HOA water management systems until the case is settled. Eleanor snorted when I read it to her over the phone. They're scared. The DA's investigation has them cornered, so they're lashing out. But we can't afford a lawsuit. Good thing we've got a secret weapon, she muttered. Meet me at Diane's tonight. Bring the paperwork. Diane's living room smelled of coffee and conspiracy. As she scanned through her laptop, news video of the flooded HOA office played on mute. Look what I found, she remarked, rotating the screen towards us. A spreadsheet, ***, HOA financial records ***, was released by an unnamed source. The highlighted entries showed $28,000 to Reynolds Landscaping, Ms. Reynolds' brother-in-law's business, for drainage improvements. $9,500 for community garden irrigation, installed 2 weeks before the rules were amended. Marcus whistled. They funded the whole scam with our dues. Diane grinned. And guess who just got tipped off? The State Attorney General's office. Eleanor tapped the lawsuit documents. But we still need to survive the next 30 days. They'll freeze our accounts if we don't pay these fines. Diane's smile became razor keen. Then let's give them a bigger problem. The following morning, Channel 5 aired Diane's explosive report. HOA accused of embezzlement as homeowners fight back. By lunchtime, it had gone viral. The clip displayed 1. I'm holding up my rainwater buckets, they fined me for this while stealing water. 2. Eleanor explains the illegal pipes using blueprints. 3. Marcus reveals the lawsuit, they're suing us for stopping their theft. The kicker? Diane's voiceover. Sources confirm the district attorney is now investigating possible fraud. Ms. Reynolds' response was quick and disastrous. Pinecrest's official Facebook page has posted false allegations. The HOA acts only in the community's best interest. These troublemakers will be held accountable. Asterisk. The comments exploded. Best interest? You flooded the office stealing water. My dues paid for your brother's landscaping? Resign. Next, consider the nuclear option. Somebody leaked Ms. Reynolds' email addresses. The most damning? From Reynolds, Patricia asterisk. To board members asterisk. Ignore the complaints. By the time these idiots afford a lawyer, we'll have changed the bylaws again. Asterisk. Eleanor marched into the county clerk's office at 4 p.m., armed with a stack of petitions signed by 60% of residents, demanding 1. Immediate suspension asterisk of the current board. 2. A forensic audit of the entire HOA finances. 3. New elections within 30 days. The clerk blinked. This is unusually well organized. Eleanor beams. We're engineers. That night, the doorbell rang. Ms. Reynolds stood on my porch with no clipboard and no sneer. Only heavy circles under her eyes. You've won, she said angrily. Drop the petition, and we'll withdraw the lawsuit. I crossed my arms. And the fines? The illegal pipes? The muscle in her jaw trembled. Gone. But if you humiliate us further. Or what? Marcus stepped behind me, clutching his phone. You'll sue us again? The AG already subpoenaed your books. She paled. Eleanor's voice carried from the kitchen, tell the board to resign by morning, or we'll make everything public. Ms. Reynolds fled. The following headline stated it all. Pinecrest HOA board resigns en masse amid corruption probe. Diane's follow-up story showed Ms. Reynolds fleeing into a taxi, chased by reporters. The caption. Former president declines comment. Asterisk. Marcus lifted a beer during our victory barbecue. To justice. Eleanor clinked hers. And to never letting bureaucrats steal our rain again. I smiled as I watched the sunset reflect off my full barrels. Then my phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This isn't over. Asterisk. The text message blazed on my phone's screen like a live wire. This isn't over. Asterisk. I showed it to Marcus and Eleanor as we stood in my driveway, the joyful barbecue winding down all around us. Marcus frowned. Probably just Reynolds blowing smoke. Eleanor was not convinced. People like her don't go quietly. We need to prepare. After the whole HOA board quit, Pinecrest Village fell into anarchy for precisely 72 hours. The county then stepped in, appointing an interim board chaired by none other than Mr. Kapoor, the retired judge from down the street. His first act? All HOA money are being frozen pending the fraud probe. Is it his second? A neighborhood-wide vote on proposed bylaws. I stood in my kitchen, staring at the ballot that had arrived in the mail. It included 1. A prohibition on private water diversion, with criminal penalties. 2. Term limits for board members. 3. Transparency requirements for all contracts over $500. Marcus whistled as he noticed it. They're nuking the old system. Eleanor smirked. Now we just have to make sure no one hijacks the new one. The first warning flag appeared at the Meet the Candidates forum. 6 residents were running for the 5 open board seats, 5 reformers and 1 Gregory Haskins. Haskins, a corporate lawyer, moved in last year. He delivered a polished speech about stability and not rushing changes, without any mention of the issue. Diane then pulled me away. Did some digging. Haskins represented Reynolds' brother-in-law's landscaping company in a lawsuit last year. My stomach sank. They're trying to sneak back in. 2 days before the election, flyers appeared in mailboxes. Do you really want radicals running your HOA? The grainy photo showed myself, Marcus, and Eleanor during the height of the flood, and the caption read, the people who destroyed your property values. Worse? A gossip campaign began, claiming that we had stolen HOA money ourselves. Marcus kicked his trash can after the third neighbor gave him the cold shoulder. They're turning us into the villains. Eleanor stayed calm. Then we fight back with facts. Diane's subsequent news segment was brutal. Dirty tricks in Pinecrest? New evidence ties election meddling to disgraced HOA board. She reveals. The posters were linked to a print firm run by Ms. Reynolds' cousin. Haskins *** earned $15,000 in consulting fees from the former board last year. But the knockout punch came from an unlikely ally, Mrs. Jameson, an 82-year-old widow whose rose bushes conceal diversion pipes. She stated on camera, leaning on her cane, "They stole my water for years. Now they're stealing our votes. Shame on them." The polls were set up in the HOA office basement, which is now dry. I voted early and then stood outside, passing out coffee to neighbors waiting in line. Haskins scowled across the parking lot, his fitted suit looking out of place among our jeans and rain boots. At 7 p.m., the results were announced. All 5 reform candidates won by a landslide. **** Haskins finished dead last. The crowd erupted. Someone popped champagne. Then, a gunshot crack of thunder. The skies opened as if on cue, rain falling in buckets. We all froze, peering up. Marcus started laughing first. Even the weather's on our side now. The first meeting of the new board lasted 17 minutes, just enough time to 1. Remove any fines against us. 2. Approve my rainwater collection system retrospectively. 3. Agree unanimously to sue the prior board for restitution. As we parted ways, Mr. Kapoor handed me an envelope. For your trouble. My legal bills were reimbursed, and I received a $500 good citizen incentive. That night, I discovered my rain barrels vandalized, slashed with a knife, their precious contents leaking into the muck. Another note was nailed on my deck. Congratulations. Watch your back. I called Marcus. They're not done. His voice sounded gloomy. Then neither are we. As the rain continued to fall, I looked at the damage. The fight had begun over water. But it was always about something more fundamental, ***, power, greed, and who gets to dominate the most valuable resource of all, home. The slit rain barrels spilled their last drops of water onto the soil as I stood motionless on my veranda, clutching the threatening message in my quivering palm. This was not simply vandalism, it was a declaration of war. Marcus arrived in minutes, his truck screeching to a halt in my driveway. He took one glance at the devastation and grabbed out his phone. "We're calling the police this time." But Eleanor, who returned seconds later with a toolbox, had different plans. "Police reports won't stop them," she remarked, kneeling to assess the damage. "We need proof of who did this." By daylight, we had a plan. 1. Hidden cameras are installed around my property, thanks of Marcus' tech-savvy kid. 2. Decoy rain barrels put prominently in the open. 3. The real collection system relocated to Eleanor's garage, connected by underground tubing. "We'll catch them red-handed," Marcus said as we concluded the setup. But the big surprise happened that afternoon when Mrs. Jameson limped up my driveway, relying heavily on her rosewood cane. "I know who's behind this," she said quietly, grasping my arm with unexpected force. "Meet me tonight. 8 p.m. Bring your friends." Mrs. Jameson's living room smelled of lavender and gun oil. The sweet old widow from the news headlines now stood before a wall plastered in surveillance photos, Gregory Haskins had met with Ms. Reynolds at a diner across town. They never stopped working together, she explained, putting a blurry photo on the table. This was taken yesterday. Marcus grabbed it up and whistled. Is that a check from Reynolds' brother-in-law's landscaping company to Haskins for consulting services? Eleanor's eyes glittered. They're trying to buy their way back into power. Mrs. Jameson opened a drawer and revealed a sleek 9mm pistol. And they'll keep coming until someone stops them. We all froze. 2 nights later, the cameras captured movement, Haskins himself, clad in black, approaching my decoy barrels with a box cutter. What he didn't see. 1. Diane and her news crew are filming from a vehicle down the street. 2. 2 county detectives are waiting in my garage. 3. Mrs. Jameson is looking through her rifle sight from an upstairs window. When the floodlights came on, Haskins appeared like a deer in headlights, just as the cops pushed in. You're trespassing, I replied quietly, walking into view. Again. What transpired next resembled a legal thriller. 1. Haskins buckled immediately, offering Reynolds in return for immunity. 2. The DA discovered a paper trail that led directly to the former board's offshore accounts. 3. Ms. Reynolds was arrested at her sister's estate while attempting to flee to Mexico. The final total. $287,000 embezzled from HOA funds. 17 counts of fraud *** among board members. 3 years in prison ** for Reynolds, plus full reparation. During the sentencing hearing, Ms. Reynolds finally lost her frigid demeanor. This was never about water, she yelled at me. It was all about control. I just smiled. Funny. That's exactly what we were fighting for too. As I went out of the courthouse, the first drops of an impending storm fell. I did not rush for shelter. As the rain fell harder, my new reinforced barrels filled steadily at home. Across the street, I noticed a half-dozen neighbors inspecting their own collecting systems, some store-bought, some homemade, all totally legal under the new regulations. Eleanor joined me on the porch and handed me a beer. We did good. Marcus tapped his bottle on ours. To the Rainwater Rebellion. Children swam in puddles where the HOA's beautiful pond formerly stood. The community garden now grew vegetables instead of roses, and its irrigation system was fueled by the same rainfall they had attempted to steal. As the storm approached its climax, I saw something unusual. The street was flooded again, but this time, the water rushed away from the HOA office, following its natural route. Just like justice. 6 months later, the Pinecrest Community Bulletin ran a surprise headline. Former HOA President Patricia Reynolds released early for good behavior. According to the newspaper, she went to Arizona, the driest state in the nation. Meanwhile, my tomatoes received first place in the county fair. The first droplets landed on my brand new rain barrels with a delightful plink, and I couldn't help but smile. After months of saving and researching, I had finally erected a comprehensive rainwater collection system, 5 interconnected barrels placed quietly beside my deck, ready to irrigate my vegetable garden without increasing my water bill. Living in Pinecrest Village meant coping with extended dry spells in the summer, and I'd had enough of watching my tomatoes shrivel while the HOA's manicured communal garden thrived under endless sprinklers. My arrangement was easy, efficient, and most importantly, legal. Or so I thought. 3 storms came and passed, but my barrels never exceeded a quarter capacity. At first, I blamed evaporation or a possible leak. But when the 4th downpour left them still half empty, I realized something was amiss. Crawling under my deck, flashlight in hand, I traced the gutter lines, and then I spotted it. A sleek, unapproved pipe branched off my downspout, moving water away from my barrels and into an underground line that vanished into the street. My stomach constricted. Someone has messed with my belongings. I was still crouching in the mud, grasping the trespassing pipe, when a clear voice broke through the precipitation. "Mr. Jackson." Ms. Reynolds, the HOA president, stood on the edge of my grass, her navy blazer absolutely dry under an umbrella. With her clipboard in hand, she studied me with the same contempt that one might save for a stray dog digging up flower beds. "Your garden beds extend 6 inches beyond the approved landscaping plan," she said, almost as if reading from a script. I stood, wiping dirt off my jeans. "Forget the garden beds. Who installed this?" I pointed to the diversion pipe. She took a quick glance at it. "The association made necessary adjustments to optimize water distribution. Had you attended last month's meeting, you'd know we passed Bylaw 72.3, ensuring excess precipitation benefits community spaces." My rainwater isn't excess," I exclaimed. "And you didn't ask for permission." Her smile was razor thin. "Your collection system wasn't approved by the architectural committee. Technically, you're the one in violation." 2 maintenance workers wearing HOA uniforms appeared behind her, arms crossed. The message was clear: this is not a discussion. That evening, I dug out my HOA contract, a 40-page monstrosity of legal jargon. Ms. Reynolds had highlighted a vague language in section 72.3 that stated, "excess precipitation runoff may be redirected for community benefit at the board's discretion." Excess? My barrels were barely full. I contacted the city water authority the following morning. The board-sounding clerk stated that rainwater rights were a gray subject. Unless you're in a drought-restricted zone, it's usually governed by your HOA agreement. So they can just take it? If the bylaws allow it, yeah. I hung up, incensed. Then the doorbell rang. A bright yellow envelope sat in my mailbox: violation notice, a $300 fine for unauthorized landscaping modifications, rain barrels, and disruptive conduct, my disagreement with Reynolds. That night, I followed the diverted water. My property's pipe connected to others on the block, flowing into a central conduit that snaked toward the HOA office, and the lovely community garden beyond it. The garden was a showcase, with sculpted hedges and flowering flowers that were maintained year-round despite water restrictions. And it happened to be exactly behind the residences of every HOA board member, including Ms. Reynolds' spacious colonial. Coincidence? Not a chance. The next morning, my neighbor Marcus noticed me scowling at my half-empty barrels. "Let me guess," he replied dryly. Reynolds struck again. Marcus had challenged the HOA the previous year over solar panels. He was familiar with their playbook. I showed him the infraction. He snorted. "Classic. They fine you for saving water while stealing it for their pet projects. You think others are dealing with this too? Oh, you have no idea." That afternoon, Marcus introduced me to Eleanor Whitmore, a retired hydraulic engineer who had a filing cabinet full of HOA complaints. Her living room was a war room, with maps, drainage plans, and meeting minutes covering every surface. "They've been doing this for years," Eleanor explained, pointing to a neighborhood map. Colored lines indicated diversion pipes connecting 6 residences to the HOA garden. "They're not just stealing from you, they're running an illegal water redistribution scheme." Marcus flipped open a ledger. "And guess who pays for the community garden irrigation? We do. Through special assessments and inflated dues." Eleanor's eyes glittered. "You know what's funny about water? It always finds the lowest point." She pointed to a topographical map. "Without those pipes, all this rainwater would naturally flow." Marcus grinned as he said, "Right into the HOA office basement." My phone chimed with a severe storm alert. The biggest in 5 years will arrive this weekend, the same weekend as the HOA's annual garden gala. Eleanor slid a schematic towards me. "Hypothetically, if someone removed these illegal diversions during the storm." I met her gaze. It wouldn't be sabotage. It'd just be nature. Outside, thunder echoed in the distance. The storm clouds moved in like an invading army, thick and heavy, blocking the sunset sun. I stood in my garage, staring at the items in front of me: waterproof gloves, a headlamp, and Eleanor's handmade valve. It looked exactly like the HOA's unlawful diversion pipe fittings, with one key difference: it would fail under pressure, returning the water back to its normal flow. Marcus arrived in his truck, rain already spattering the windshield. "You ready for this?" I rubbed my palms across my jeans. "As ready as I'll ever be." Eleanor's directions were exact. 1. Find the primary junction box, buried at the property line among decorative rocks. 2. Swap the valves, fast and quietly, before the storm peaks. 3. Let gravity handle the rest. "We've got a 6-hour window," Marcus replied, scanning the radar. "Once the real downpour starts, no one will be out patrolling." I nodded, adrenaline pulsing beneath my skin. This was not vengeance, it was reclamation. At 11:03 p.m., the first thunderclap shook the building. I slipped inside my raincoat, the cloth rustling like a whisper. The neighborhood was strangely quiet, save for the wind blowing through the trees. The junction box was exactly where Eleanor had indicated it would be. Kneeling in the mud, I removed the cover and went to work. The HOA's pipes were smooth and sophisticated, as if they had been placed by an expert. Too bad they didn't expect someone to undo it.